Hello guys, what's going on? I'm here for another book review. This time I'm gonna be talking about The Ethics of Money Production. Very interesting book by Jörg Guido Hülsman. Did you guys like my German pronunciation? Just let me show you the cover. Where is it? The Ethics of Money Production. Here it is. I don't have the physical book, and I regret a little bit to not. I regret not to have bought the physical book, because I kind of underestimated this book, I would say, and it's very interesting. It's different from other books regarding monetary issues that I read, like the one from De Soto, or the part of prices and production from Hayek, in which he talks about monetary theory. These two are more of a scholar, academic texts, and they're more. They have a different language, much more serious language, and more professional, I would say. Of course, that there is the particular style of the authors, of the economists, De Soto and Hayek, and that's an interesting point about this book. The writing style from Hülsman, which is so interesting, so authentic, and so beautiful, so authentic, so unique from him. That's very interesting. But anyways, it's a different style. It's more of a forgot the word, but it's for a regular person to read. It's not a scholar book. Everyone can read this book, I would say. Everyone who has interest in economics and politics and all that can read this book. And I think De Soto's book is also very accessible, but it's more, a little bit more specialized, for people that actually have some understanding of economics. But anyways, very interesting, and the name The Ethics of Money Production gives the whole how can I say that, vision, approach to the monetary theory. It's not a monetary theory book, but it's a book that talks about monetary issues, the monetary question in general. But the thing that he does, which is interesting and very good, it's very good to see that, is that he doesn't dissociate the legal, ethical, moral aspect, of the money production, of the moral, legal, ethical aspect within monetary questions. For example, Hayek, he doesn't talk about it in at least in his papers about money that I read in Pricing and Production. With De Soto talks about that, but it's a little bit more technical, I would say. He condemns, a fractionary reserve, for example, but it's a bit more of a technical book, I would say. And this one, the whole vision, the lens that he gives to everything that he's telling us, every argument, is this moral, legal, ethical vision. And that's very interesting. That's very interesting. And of course, that when we're talking about morals, we have to talk about religion. And he quotes the Bible a lot of times in passages that show clearly that currency is a delicate topic, and to manipulate it, it's not good. It's a bad thing. And he has a dedicated chapter only to analyze specifically, more deeply, this notion, this thing about the ethics behind money production, especially when he's talking about fractional reserves, I would say. Especially when he's talking about it, which it's the institutionalized, systematic. No, I think it's a. Oh my God, that's a hard word for me to pronounce. It's even hard to pronounce in Portuguese. But anyways, it's It's theft that was made legal, by the state. It's easier to say this way, to say like that. And yeah, and this video is a bit chaotic. That's my style. I'm a bit unorganized. I'm sorry, but anyways, he talks about everything. He begins with the story of production of money, and some old references to the production of money in like very very old texts. Some other authors does that too, like Rothbard in his Economic Thought Before Adam Smith. And then he talks about the consequences of inflation, like the economical consequences, which is the economic cycles. And then he talks about the monetary instruments, and he talks about the ethics of money production, and he talks about in practice what how the monetary arrangements, which were the monetary arrangements in history, and he gives a special emphasis to the last 200 centuries, and in a more globalized economy, the gold standard, the gold exchange standard, and then Bretton Woods, and finally what we have today, the fiduciary paper money. And again, everything, and in every single topic, he is permeated by this ethical, legal, moral notion of the thing, and that's very very nice. As I said, he quotes the Bible a lot of times. He quotes Bishop Oresme, Nicholas Oresme, and I'm actually reading his treatise right now. A very interesting book, very nice book, which has this very moral approach to it, because it was a bishop, and things were intertwined, combined, linked back then. This approach of separating subjects and almost like not connecting each other. It's a more of a modern approach to the sciences and all that. But anyways, and he quotes some papal documents. It's that the way you say in English, papal documents, some official documents from the church, written by popes, or written by popes, with the help of some other cardinals and auxiliaries and things like that. Some official documents, and then regarding not only not exactly money, but private property and the legal aspect of private property. Not only in terms of this moral, but also in the technical terms, like in private property being the best way to I think it's Leo 13th. Now we have Pope Leo 14th, and I think it was Pope Leo 13th or Pio 9th or 10th or 11th. I'm sorry, I don't know that topic that well, but anyways, says that private property, or was Saint John Paul II? I don't know. Some modern pope from the last 150 years says that private property is the best way. The arrangement of private property, of respect to private property, is the best way to mitigate the material miseries from the humankind. So yeah, that's very interesting. But yeah, so I gave this overview of the book, and I'm gonna talk about two more specific things that caught my eye in this book, especially in more practical terms. This first one, regarding Bitcoin, he's not talking about Bitcoin, but he's talking about the impossibility of a currency, of a money, coin, arriving out of nowhere in the market without being a good before, a commodity before, So that's pretty much the regression theorem. I heard this argument against Bitcoin in a podcast recently, and I started to think about it, like this is good, and it was more better explained in this book. Of course, it's easier to explain arguments written than, arguments are better understood, I think, written than spoken. And of course, when you speak, you have this, the debates are, you always have like this emotional thing, and it's way harder to make yourself clear in these scenarios than, in writing. But anyways, the guy is a Brazilian guy from the financial market, and he talked about it, and I think like, and it was like, yeah, that makes sense, But anyways, is that you cannot have a money. I can close my Kindle now, my Kindle case now. You cannot have like a money that was artificially injected, put in the market without before being a commodity, a good. That's the theorem of regression, as I said. And that's why, because of that, paper money would never arise in a free market economy. Because what is the utility of paper, of inked paper? It has no utility. You can have some, I don't know, maybe more ludic, contemplative aspect, oh, this is a beautiful thing to look at. I kind of like, I have a currency collection here in my house, which was from part of that was from my grandfather, my grandfather, which is not alive anymore. But anyways, and that makes sense. Like, why would someone accept paper as a money? Why? In a free market? Because then we go to the intrinsic physical aspects of a good that are good, that are the best for being a money. So that's why gold, silver, and copper are good monies, because of their physical characteristics. And paper doesn't have that. It's easily reproducible. It's not like how can I say? It's easily depreciated. Like the paper, it decomposes more rapidly than metal, precious metals. So this physical intrinsic characteristics of a good, so that doesn't make any sense. Paper money in a free market, it wouldn't last like 2 days, and that makes a lot of sense. So if there is paper money, it's because it was artificially, it's way more probable. We know that by history, that was what happened, we know. But logically, it doesn't make any sense. So it's of course it's a result from coercitive action, rather than voluntary free market relations. I'm sorry. And what does it have to do with the Bitcoin? The thing is that Bitcoin it arrived out of nowhere in the free market. It's free, but it arrived out of nowhere, as a alternative of a coin. But the thing is, like, why would I take Bitcoin if I didn't know that someone would, accept it? Why would I take it, It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would I take that? And the argument that the guy from the podcast did was, Bitcoin has value because it's related to dollar. It's like, so it's not a money, a currency per se. It's a medium of exchange, like credit card, check, banknotes. And banknotes has a relation, is directly related to the thing that I'm gonna talk about. Later. The other thing that caught my attention. So yeah, Bitcoin is not a coin per se. It's not money. It's a substitute. It's a monetary substitute, because it's not a good. And money must be a good. That's the thing. Like, I take money before being a good because I know that has some utility. You know, I know that it has some utility. If it's not for me, for the other person. You know, that's the thing. And Bitcoin doesn't have that. Bitcoin's like, I'm gonna receive this payment in Bitcoin in order to, you know, give to someone. And that's all. I don't want to have Bitcoin with me. That's different with gold, for example. You know, of course that in the end of the day, what we all want what we all want is goods. You know, it's you know, polo shirts, Apple Watch, and all that, house, food. That's what we want. So money is not dissociated in this regard, because it is a good at the end of the day. It's not like some intrude, something of other species. No, it's a good, but it's a specific good that has a specific characteristics that makes it universally acceptable on demand by everyone. You know, that's the thing. But it's not from another species. It's not like something that's strange. You know, it's not like in a alien in the realm of goods. It's not that at all. Like Bitcoin seems to be, like paper money is. You know, and that's very interesting. I'm not 100% convinced, but this makes a lot of sense. You know. Anyways, and I hope that, you know, it was clear. I'm a little bit prolix. Oh my god, I'm a little prolix. I'm sorry. And the other thing that caught my eye was a concept that was very interesting, especially for me as a Catholic, which was economic transubstantiation, or as Hülsman called, reverse transubstantiation. I think it was a term created by Professor, I think it's Harbiner. Let me see here. I think it was Professor Harbiner. Professor Jeffrey Harbiner. Reverse transubstantiation was created by Jeffrey Harbiner, and Guido Hülsman used economic transubstantiation, which is basically it's a term to explain, you know, this the effect of the banks not, you know, linking. I mean, the banks cutting their links, the link of their banknotes to the gold in their vaults, and establishing this banknotes as legal tender. Not them, the banks, but, you know, the government. You know, so because, you know, banks, 18-minute long video. I'm sorry. But anyways, banks started as deposits of gold, of coin, of currency, of money, and they would issue banknotes that were, you know, sustained by the amount of gold in their vaults, of course. So if I have, I don't know, $1,000 gold in my vaults, I would have $1,000 in banknotes, you know, because banknotes are way more practical than, you know, gold coins or, you know, gold bullions and all that. It's you have a name for that. You can say that's like economical, informational economy. You know, you make things easier and quicker and more practical. You know, you reduce transaction costs also. But anyways, also no, two also is on the beginning, right? I'm sorry. But anyways, and when they started doing that, but when they started to issue more notes than they would have of gold in their vaults, and then cut this link by suspending payments, you know, with, you know, support from the government, and establishing this new banknotes as legal tender, what they're doing are not they're not being banks anymore. They're literally creating money. So that's another institution. It's not a bank anymore. It looks like a bank, you know. The notes are exactly the same. The same object, let's say that way. But they are not money anymore. I mean, I'm sorry, but now they're money. You know, banknotes, they were not money. They were mediums of exchange. They were monetary substitutes. But now they are money because they are legal tender and because they don't have any relation with gold anymore. You cannot take gold anymore, only this paper money. So now these banknotes are money. They are money. They're bad money, terrible money, but they are money. But a bank should not do that. A bank should not create money. You know, a bank was created to guard money. Just that, to guard money and to make transactions easier, to, you know, coordinate the influx of savings and investments. That's all, you know. Creating money, it's more of a job of, you know, goldsmiths, not goldsmiths, but, you know, the people that would work directly with that, with, you know, with mining and coining money. But now banks do that, not with gold but with paper. So it has this appearance of a bank. The banknotes look like, you know, banknotes look like mediums of exchange, monetary substitutes, monetary instruments, but they are not that anymore. They're money now. And a bank is not a bank anymore. It's a, you know, institution that creates money. That's not a bank. So the parallel with transubstantiation, which is a dogma of the Catholic Church, is a miracle. It's divine, it's beautiful, different from, you know, the economic transubstantiation, which is satanic, which is fraud and coercion, violence against the population, and stealing. The transubstantiation in the Catholic Church, it's a miracle in which bread and wine, they became the body and the blood of Jesus Christ for real. But, you know, in the appearance, this cute, this sweet appearance of bread and wine. But they're not bread and wine anymore. They're the body and the blood of Jesus Christ. But, you know, since Jesus Christ is God, he can appear in, you know, whatever way he wants to. Of course, he's God. He appears, you know, his body appears, his body and his blood appears in the form, in the with all the accidents, the aspects of a bread and wine, you know. And that's wonderful. That's a insane thing when you get convinced, not convinced here, but convinced here. You know, the argument is insanely logical. It makes a lot of sense. I'm not gonna explain it now, but anyways, when you understand here, it's so beautiful and so touching, and the mass is insane. You know, the moment of the I don't know how you guys say in English, consecration, I don't know, but the moment in which this miracle happens in the mass, it's insane. It's so beautiful. But it's, as I said, beautiful, divine, miraculous. It's not the economic transubstantiation, which is satanic, extremely humane, fraudulent, violent, and, you know, and it's robbery. It's literally stealing people's money, you know, their gold. And that's another thing that was very interesting so these two topics. And a third thing, oh my god, 23-minute long video, I'm sorry, is regarding his writing style. I talked a little bit about it in the beginning, but I want to talk about a little bit more. He's very authentic. His writing style is very unique, I would say. Very unique, very beautiful. It's a short book. I think it's like 250 pages or something like that. But I took a little bit longer to read it, because every single page, you know, the formulation was so beautiful regarding like everything, especially when he's talking about the critics about the economic cycles, which is a topic that I love. I think it's for me, it's the most interesting topic in economies, in economic subjects, you know, this and theory of capital. And the formulation is so beautiful that you know, every single page I would read, it was like I have to, you know, remember every single detail of this argument, because you know, I want to use when I need to, whenever I need to, you know, I want to remember this. How can I say to decorate? No, that's not the word in English for that. We have a word for very good for that in Portuguese. It's more of a, it gives a real sense of what I was feeling while reading these arguments. But anyways, I took a little bit longer to read because I wanted to remember the arguments, and the way they were phrased, because they were, oh my God, they were very beautifully phrased. That was very interesting, very nice, very authentic. De Soto and Hayek are more, they write in long periods, very dense, very academical, and kind of cold in their approach. And for example, Rothbard or Hazlitt or Walter Block, they are more straight, direct, and sometimes make things a little bit simpler, I would say. Not that they are simple economists or intellectuals. They're not. They are excellent, very, very good. But sometimes they it gives an impression, at least for me, that things are a little bit simpler than they really is. And for example, Philip Bagos, I think he can make a very good midfield, as we say in Brazil, between Hayek, De Soto, and because the density and rigidity of Hayek and De Soto. De Soto is a little bit more accessible, I would say. Probably for me, I think he's the best, I would say, in terms of balance. But anyways, like Hayek is very dense and rigid and intellectualized, and then De Soto and Bagos can be like this middle ground between this side and the more simplistic side, with all the respect of Rothbard, Hazlitt, and Walter Block, for example. And this guy, he's like, he's not in this group, he's not, he's not on this line, he's like here, he's from a different species, he's very authentic, very interesting, very beautiful, and I like him a lot. And another thing I forgot to say, he talks about the moral consequences of inflation, and that's another very interesting topic that he talks about too. I'm gonna try to be quick. Philip Bagos talks about that too in his book about and the economic collapse, the economic crisis in Iceland, and I have this book reviewed in my channel. And I was wearing this shirt too. That's such a coincidence. Anyways, and he talks about the moral consequences for the Icelandic society, of inflation, of the inflation from the 2000s, early 2000s. And here Guido Hülsman talks about it in a more broad way, and that's interesting because he writes before the crisis, before the 2008 crisis, so that's even more impressive, And he talks about how people tend to be more materialistic, and you cut this interdependence, this good interdependence between the community, the locality, families, that before this loans being more accessible as they are today, people would ask money for their relatives, for their parents, or for their cousins, or for the community, or whatever. And this kind of ended because now every single person can get a loan at a artificially low rate in a bank, in a big commercial bank. And that's another thing. So relations tend to be weakened because you cut this dependence, this interdependence that we have as people, and that's very bad. And he talks about some other things. People tend to be more hedonistic too, and you have a kind of a satanic, malefic aspect of that. Like, you can't create money out of nothing, out of nowhere. That's insane. That's literally satanic. The demon tries to sell the heaven, for example, if we compare heaven to being rich, for example, to wealth, without a cross, without suffering. And Jesus Christ, that's the doctrine of the Catholic Church. You cannot earn heaven without suffering, without hurting. That's the parallel we do with wealth. You cannot have wealth without saving, without working, without working your ass off, as you guys Americans like to say. That's a necessary condition. And if someone's trying to sell you wealth without that, it's kind of a weird thing to say. It's not exactly aligned with the doctrine of the Catholic Church, which came from the revelation. But anyways, that was it. 30-minute long video, guys. I'm sorry. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave your opinion down there, and yeah, that's it. Bye bye. Have a blessed weekend.